moment of weakness, I kissed another handsome guy on the trip. My husband doesn't want me now.
Going to Portugal was supposed to be a moment to remember. My ex-husband and I went there for our anniversary. If only I knew that it would have been our last anniversary, I would have canceled everything. Now, I'm all alone with my children, but no husband. I sometimes think I'm dreaming that after 10 years he would just dump me like that. I blew it big time, and I don't think he'll ever forgive me. The way he looked at me, he was disgusted. He was such a loving guy and very nice man. He was my man, but not anymore. If I were to turn back the hands of time, I would rewind everything and unkiss the surfer. I don't even know what came over me and how I ended up kissing him. It is really confusing. Yes, I agree the surfer was handsome and all that, but that didn't give me a privilege to kiss another man while I was married and with my husband, the worst part on our anniversary. I know I can't undo the kissing, but please help me on how I should have done things. If there is someone who can relate or has done the similar thing, please tell me how you deal with the guilt and regret. I, female 27, met my ex-husband, male 30, when I was 16 years old. We grew up in the same neighborhood in New York City and went to the same high school. He was a few grades ahead of me, but nothing stopped us from dating. He approached me, and in my mind, I thought he wanted to play me. He was very handsome and fit. He also played football. Every time he would ask me out, I would reject him. I didn't want to be on his hit list, and also I played hard to see if he was serious about me, and he was not. He never gave up after a few months, so I gave our relationship a shot. He was so romantic, he took me out whenever he was free. Bought me flowers. I was so in love with him. He graduated in high school and went to the Culinary Institute of New York to learn more about cooking. He wanted to be the world's greatest chef and expand the family business. When he graduated, I thought our relationship was over, but he came back for me. On my high school graduation, he proposed. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I didn't go to college. I moved in with my ex-husband. We dated for a couple of months. I had already met his family and vice versa, and we decided to tie the knot after 7 months of dating. We loved each other so much to a point that some would even call us twins or siblings because that was how inseparable we were. He would go anywhere and everywhere with me, but that was before we had children, which we got on our first year anniversary. It was the happiest year of our lives. He was really supportive and loving. Everything was perfect until when our 10 years anniversary approached. I don't even know if he remembered our anniversary date, the way he was so distant and distracted. We had perfect children, a perfect home. I couldn't believe it had been 10 years since my husband Marcus and I had been married. He was my best friend, my keeper, and my strength. He was and still is a good father to our children. But I ruined all that. Sigh. Our love for each other had only grown stronger with each passing year. We had 2 beautiful children, a lovely home, and a happy, comfortable life together. But as our anniversary approached, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Marcus had been distant and preoccupied for weeks, and I couldn't understand why. I tried to brush it off as just a phase, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. I decided to plan a special anniversary trip to the beach, hoping that it would bring us closer together and reignite the spark in our relationship. I booked a beautiful beachfront house, complete with a private pool and a stunning view of the ocean. I spent hours planning the perfect itinerary, complete with romantic dinners, sunset walks on the beach, and relaxing spa treatments. The day of our anniversary finally arrived, and I was filled with excitement and anticipation. Marcus seemed distant and distracted as we packed our bags and headed out the door, but I tried not to let it dampen my spirits. As we arrived at our destination, I was struck by the breathtaking beauty of the beach. The sun was shining, the waves were crashing, and the salty ocean air filled my lungs. I felt a sense of peace and tranquility wash over me, and I knew that this was exactly what we needed. We spent the first few days of our trip relaxing and reconnecting. We took long walks on the beach, held hands, and talked about our dreams and aspirations. It felt like the old us was back, and I was filled with hope and joy. I didn't know if my husband was really happy or he was pretending to be happy just for my sake. But whatever mood he was in was great because we enjoyed our day until he excused himself and said he had an important call to make to check on his hotel and restaurant business. I understood and excused him because I knew how much he loved his business, so he would always be fussy about it and check how it was every now and then. He was too overprotective of his business. I remember when I would complain about him spending more time in his hotel or in a restaurant to make sure everything was running smoothly. He would tell me that these two businesses were his first children before our two beautiful babies. So he had to protect their legacy any way possible, even if he had managers, but he still wanted to run it himself. The previous day, my husband and I were taking a walk. Funny enough, he knew my husband from social media and papers because his restaurant and hotel business was well known, and he was planning on opening another restaurant in Portugal. He was really friendly and the conversation was flowing, but I was drooling over the guy. I was just washing my eyes and seeing what others were not seeing. I know it was wrong, but the truth must be told. There are perfect God's creatures out there, and it's not a crime to feed your eyes a little. As we talked, I found myself feeling drawn to Jake in a way that I hadn't felt in years. He was charming, confident, and had a sense of adventure that was infectious. I couldn't help but be drawn to him, even though I knew it was wrong. But my husband was not paying attention to me anymore. It was like we were there on a business trip and not our anniversary. He was always talking about business even in our bedroom, which made me somehow bored because it was always a business conversation every now and then, nothing about us. Even our intimate moments were no longer the same. I had thought the trip was going to help us reconnect, but I guess I was the only one who was investing in this marriage. But then, something unexpected happened. As we were sitting by the pool, enjoying a refreshing drink before Marcus, my ex-husband, went to make an important call, I saw him. A handsome surfer with piercing blue eyes and a chiseled jawline. Well, I had already seen him, so it was the second time seeing him, and I couldn't get him off my head. He was tall, with broad shoulders and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through me. We struck up a conversation, and before I knew it, we were laughing and joking like old friends. He was like those men who had a perfectly built body with sexy fit body shape like the type of that Italian actor Simone Susina from the 365 Days film. He passed to greet us, and I couldn't help but stare at his perfect body. Yes, my husband's body was flames, and all but the surfer took my attention that day. And I regret ever looking at another man either than my own. We had planned to spend 2 weeks in Portugal with my husband just to have more time to ourselves and spend more quality time alone without the children. And it was great. My main aim was to bring back the Marcus I had fallen in love with and bring back the spark that was there when we started dating. I needed my husband back, and my plan actually worked until he told me after 3 days of us in Portugal that he had to go back to New York. I couldn't believe him, but I couldn't deny him to go. So he went back to New York alone, and I was left in Portugal to finish off my holidays. So as I stayed back in Portugal, I decided to take surfing lessons. So I asked Jake to teach me how to because I had been interested in surfing since I was a kid, but I couldn't get time to learn it. I found it fascinating, and it had been a bonus for me to learn how to surf while I was enjoying the trip, even though my husband had left. Luckily, Jake agreed to teach me how to surf, and I was more than happy. That was how I and Jake got close. As the days passed, my husband was still not back, so I found myself spending more and more time with Jake, the surfer. We would go for walks on the beach, have long conversations by the pool, and even go on a surfing lesson together. It was exhilarating, and I felt alive in a way that I hadn't felt in years. But despite the excitement, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was doing something wrong. I loved Marcus, and I knew that I shouldn't have kissed another man, no matter how handsome and charming he was. But I had always felt a sense of dissatisfaction in my marriage, and that kiss had made me realize that I deserved more. It had already been a week of me in Portugal, meaning I only had a few days left to enjoy my holidays, and my heart was broken, because I was enjoying Portugal more. I had been trying to reach out to my husband, but he was not reachable. His phone was either ringing unanswered or it would go straight to voicemail. What made me worried was when I couldn't reach him on his office phone numbers. I had thought there was something wrong that had happened. But as time went by, I started suspecting that he was cheating on me. I couldn't just shake off that feeling, and some of you know how true a woman's guts gets sometimes. If the lady suspects that you are cheating, that means her conscience is really telling her the truth. It's like we are prophets. And that led to spending more time with Jake because I was getting lonely, and I was getting stressed about my husband, and the thoughts of him cheating on me were playing in my head. Jake was a great distraction to forget about my husband's disappearance. What infuriated me the most was the fact that when I called home to check on the children, they would tell me that Marcus was around and he was fine. My woman instincts were telling me a lot. It really hurt me to know that I was worried about someone who didn't even think about his own wife. That was what made me spend more time with Jake, and I was pretty much enjoying every moment of it. So one night, Jake had taken me out to introduce me to one of the clubs near the hotel I was staying in. I got too comfortable with him. We were like best buddies, and I had so much fun in that club to a point that I found myself drinking all my sorrows away. Marcus was stressing me out, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that he was doing something wrong back at home. I hoped and prayed that he was not doing something that would jeopardize our relationship and destroy our marriage. After I was tired of drinking and dancing, Jake and I sat down and talked, He was not just a lousy surfer, he was really smart too. So as we were talking, I don't even know what came over me, but the more he was talking, the more I craved to taste his sexy pinkish lips. They were really appetizing, I won't lie. I don't know if I saw them like that because I was kind of tipsy because of the cocktails I was drinking, but I really craved for the surfer's lips so bad. I was acting a bit sluttish, right? I had been staring at him, well, more like his lips, until I couldn't hold myself anymore, so I kissed him. I don't know what came over me that time, but I regret it. I couldn't believe it. But despite the excitement, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was doing something wrong. I loved Marcus, and I knew that I shouldn't have been kissing another man, no matter how handsome and charming he was. I had just kissed a handsome surfer on our 10-year anniversary trip. That was a very low and cheap move for me, but I can't take it back. Crazy enough, I enjoyed it. My husband was a great kisser. I gave him that, but Jake the surfer was the best. So as we were spending a lot of time together, Jake and I, there was this time when Jake was off duty, so he came to see me because I only had like 2 days left for my holiday trip to end, and something unexpected happened. As we were sitting by the pool, Jake took my hand and looked into my eyes. "I have to tell you something," he said, his voice low and serious. "I have feelings for you, and I want to be with you. Will you be my girlfriend?" And I was really shocked and kind of confused because the guy had seen me with my husband. It was just that my husband left to attend to the businesses. I couldn't believe that he would just drop such a huge bomb to a married woman just because I kissed him. Well, more like we kissed each other once, but that shouldn't have made him think I could be his girlfriend. I mean, I was married, and I loved my husband so much. And I was already regretting what we did because if my husband was to find out, a lot would be destroyed. I won't lie and say the kiss was sloppy or bad because it was not, and somehow I was kind of feeling Jake, not as a boyfriend, of course, but when he confessed, I was taken aback, unsure of what to say. I loved John, but I couldn't deny the feelings that I had for Jake. I was torn and I didn't know what to do. It was like I was stuck between a rock and a very hard place. I mean, my husband had started pulling stunts at me. Though I didn't have any proof that he was cheating, I couldn't shake off that feeling, I really don't know when and how my husband saw me or came back, because I was not even expecting him anymore. He was supposed to come back about a week ago, but he didn't. And he decided to come back when I only have 2 days to go back home. I was really angry at him because he had been ignoring me, my calls and texts the whole time. Then he decided to just pitch up at a later stage. The worst part, Jake and I were sitting a bit too close to each other. So Marcus saw that, he got pretty angry, and things went south pretty fast. My husband was just in awe, and if I were to lie and tell that famous lying phrase of, "It's not what you think," or "It's not how it looks like," and try to explain what had happened, knowing very well what had happened, and Marcus saw it. So it was not going to work because he had caught red-handed, kissing the surfer. As we sat there, Marcus asked what was going on and words got stuck in my tongue. I am not a person who just get tongue-tied. I always have answers for everything, but that day I was stuck, and I froze on the spot. It was like my mind went into another freezing zone and it couldn't think properly. My heart was beating pretty fast. I didn't know what to do. and Jakey, on another hand, he just sat there and looked his husband in the eyes. I couldn't believe the guy. He should have just apologized and left, but no. He sat there waiting for whatever Marcus was going to do. After some time, I contained myself and came back from the freezing zone that my mind was in. So I hesitated, not wanting to hurt Marcus, but also not wanting to lie to him. I've been spending time with Jake, I said, my voice trembling. Not because I was scared of Marcus, but I was scared of the outcome that would take place. I didn't want to lose Marcus over a surfer. Yes, the guy was charming, handsome, and sexy and all, but I didn't want to lose my husband. Marcus was my strength, so I couldn't allow a guy that I had met 2 seconds ago to destroy what Marcus and I had built. I had to tell the truth and hope for a better outcome. 2 days later, my husband and I went back to New York. He didn't talk to me for that whole 2 days. The only thing he did on our way back home was glancing at me with eyes full of suspicion and anger. He was pretty angry at me. I know I had done him wrong, but if he was there with me, none of that would have happened. But I couldn't tell him that because it would sound like I was selfish for wanting to spend more time with him. But he decided to put his business first over his wife. So over the next few days, my husband became more and more distant. He stopped talking to me and started spending all of his time with our kids. I knew that something was wrong, but I had no idea what it was because as much as I did him wrong, I told him the truth of what was happening between Jake and I. I could sense that he was hiding something from me. The way he was acting was selling him off. I didn't know that Marcus would not believe the truth that I had told him and actually go investigate me and Jake. So after a week of us back at home, he came back from work and asked to speak to me. If I knew what he wanted to talk about, I wouldn't have agreed to have a talk with him, but I didn't know. So at me down and told me that he knew about what I did. I started getting confused because obviously he knew what I did. I mean, he saw me kissing another man, and I had thought we were past that. But then he told me that he had found out about what had been going on between Jake and I. He told me that he couldn't believe the lie I had told him, so he decided to run an investigation to see if what I did with Jake was only a kiss he saw, or there was more to it. He told me that he saw a video of me at the club kissing the surfer. I couldn't believe that he went behind my back and did that. He even told me that I was just like all the other loose and cheap women, who are always looking for fun and good times with other men. That really stung because the way he said those words, it was like he was swearing at me. It really hurt me to hear him say that, but the voice that he used to say those words was a mix of anger, disappointment, hurt, and sadness. I knew there and then that I had hurt my husband in the worst way possible. I felt a stinging sensation in my eyes as his words hit their mark. I had never been one to cheat on my husband, but I had let my desires get the better of me. I tried apologizing to him, but he didn't want to hear it. The only thing he wanted to know was why I did that, meaning I had to come clean. Hoping he would understand and we find a common ground to solve whatever happened. I mean, it was not like I slept with the surfer. It was just a kiss, so I told him that it was not my intention to hurt him, but I just needed something more in my life. I mean, he was always busy, for me or our kids. The only time he would spend time with us was during dinner, or spend time with the kids and not me. And even our bedroom activities were no longer exciting and affectionate. Instead of him understanding my concerns, he started swearing at me, telling me that I had always been like this, calling me selfish and reckless. Worst part, he spitted that he was regretting ever marrying me, and that he should have known better than to marry me. Only if he had listened to his friends, none of this would have happened. I had no comeback to what he was saying. The way I was hurt, my heart was bleeding. I thought to myself that his friends had once told him not to marry me. I didn't understand why. I know I was a forward and somehow reckless, but I had never cheated on Marcus ever since we had started dating. I loved him too much to do him like that. I felt a wave of sadness wash over me as I realized that my marriage was over. Marcus had never been a good husband ever since he started his restaurant and hotel businesses, but I had always hoped that he would change. Now it seemed that he was just like all the other men, using and discarding women when they no longer served their purposes. He said that he couldn't trust me anymore and that he wanted a divorce. I couldn't let him give up on us and our marriage just for one silly mistake. I tried reasoning with him and apologizing. I couldn't let Jake destroy my marriage and my family like that. I had to try and make him understand what had come over me. I mean, as much as I had done him wrong, but he pushed me to it, with his absence and his businesses. He knew I would never hurt him intentionally, but I needed to find myself also. I mean, we started dating when we were very young, so I didn't know how it was like to feel another male person, because I only knew him as the male in my life. I was devastated. I had never expected this to happen, and I didn't know how to react. I tried to explain to my husband that Jake and I only kissed once, and that the only thing I did wrong with Jake was kissing him in the club and spending time with him because he was not there. I told him that I still loved him, and I didn't want to lose him over a stranger that we had met on our trip, but he had already made up his mind. He told me that I would never find another man who would love me like he did. He called me a foolish woman who always chased after my own desires without thinking about the consequences. Which was true, but I had done that only once, not always. My mind and heart couldn't digest the fact that my husband had left me for one silly mistake that I had made. If I knew that the anniversary trip we had was the last one, I wouldn't have gone, and I wouldn't have done what I did. But we cannot take what had happened back right, and what was done was already done, and there was no undoing it. I was heartbroken. I had lost the man I loved, and the life we had built together. I was left with nothing but a deep sadness and a sense of confusion. But as a few months passed, I began to realize that the separation between my husband and I had given me a chance to rediscover myself, even though it had been a struggle to cope with the loss of my husband and the guilt of my infidelity. But I had always put my family and my marriage first, but now I had the opportunity to focus on myself and my own desires. I mean, Marcus was my first everything, my first love, my keeper, my happy place. We even got married, and I never even had time to enjoy my youth phase and find myself in what I loved, which resulted me to not even go to college. I moved in with him, and he proposed right after I'd graduated from high school. I knew that my marriage was over, the day Marcus saw me kissing Jake, but the memories of our past love and the pain of my present situation made it difficult to let go. Months passed, I began to realize that my mistake or infidelity had not only cost me my marriage, but also my self-respect. I felt lost and alone, with no direction or purpose. I started drinking and going out a lot, getting reckless until I woke up in a hospital bed. I was really depressed and shutted. From there, I knew that I needed to make amends and find a way to heal. Not only for myself, but for my children also. I had been distant from them for months. I didn't even make means to see them since they were living with Marcus's family. I had neglected my children, which was very wrong of me. So I started taking surfing lessons again, and I found that I loved the feeling of the waves and the rush of adrenaline. I also started exploring my own interests and hobbies, and I discovered a whole new side of myself that I had never known existed. One day, while I was out for a run, I saw a flyer for a surfing competition at the beach nearby. I decided to attend, hoping to find some closure and maybe even see her former lover again. I couldn't enter the competition as I was still learning, but watching other surfers made me fall more in love with the sport. As I watched the surfers ride the waves, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I then realized that my love for Marcus was still strong, and I needed to fight for our marriage. The divorce was not yet finalized, and I still had a chance to at least try and make my marriage work again. With renewed determination, I reached out to Marcus and begged for forgiveness. I promised to do whatever it took to regain his trust and love. I loved this man. He was my first everything, my first kiss, my virginity breaker, my best friend, my strength. And without him, I knew that I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I couldn't go on without my strength. I was struggling so much to a point that I even thought of taking drugs. But I would think of him and how he would feel if he was to find that out too. Or our children see or find out that their mother was acting like a junkie. I begged Marcus, and he was hesitant at first, but he eventually agreed to give our marriage another chance. I was so happy to be given another chance to prove myself again and be with my family again. I was glad that he didn't tell his family about our separation. I won't lie and say the separation didn't help me, because it did help me a lot. It gave me time to find myself and think about what I wanted to do with my life. Yes, I didn't have any college qualification, but I uncovered my hidden skills and talents, which was surfing. Over the next few months, I worked tirelessly to rebuild my relationship with Marcus. I was really determined to make it work. So I attended therapy sessions, read self-help books since I had become a lover of alcohol. I was somehow an alcohol addict, so I needed all the help I could get and make amends for my infidelity. Marcus, too, was doing his part to heal and move forward. I was glad that he was willing to meet me halfway and get to the bottom of everything. We both knew that our love was worth fighting for, and we were determined to make it work. Even though it became a huge struggle to regain his trust again, especially around men, but I was glad that he was trying. As the months passed, our love began to heal and grow stronger. We learned to communicate openly and honestly, to trust each other again, and to appreciate the beauty of our second chance at love. We realized that our marriage was not a destination, but a journey, and we were grateful to be on that journey together. Even though we faced a bit of roller coaster rides because of our past, but as much as I was the one who was wrong in the whole thing, he also realized that he was also at fault and he didn't have to leave me in Portugal, especially on our anniversary holiday, to attend his work. A lot was said and done until one fateful day that made all the effort that we had made go down the drain like a used water. So as we were busy spending family quality time, I received a call from an unsaved number. And to my surprise, the number that was calling me was Jake. I didn't know what was wrong with him, so I asked what he wanted, and the poor guy poured his heart out on the phone, confessing his love for me. Mind you, Marcus and I had started to put our phones on loudspeakers whenever we got calls from unknown or unsaved numbers if we were spending time together. So, during the call, I didn't even know what to do. I saw Marcus's face change immediately from a soft and happy face to a furious face within minutes. He got pretty angry to a point that he snatched my phone and threw it on the wall. I didn't know what to do. Luckily, the children were not in the room. I tried asking what was going on and why he was angry like that and smashing my phone on the wall. He started swearing at me and asking me what was going on between Jake and I. I told him that nothing was going on, and I didn't even know where Jake had gotten my number because we didn't exchange numbers when we were in Portugal. He didn't believe me and told me that I had been making him a fool all this time. He shouldn't have given me another chance. I tried reasoning with him, but he didn't believe any word that came out of my mouth. I just couldn't believe that after so many times we were trying to fix our marriage and renew our love. Jake decided to call right when my relationship with my husband was back to where it was. You know when they say someone was followed by a very dark cloud or had bad lucks, that was me. Marcus believed that I had been in a relationship with Jake the whole time, and he decided to continue with divorce drafting, and he moved out of the house. 3 days later, I got a call from our family lawyer asking if I was in the house so she would come through. After some time, she arrived to serve me with divorce papers. I knew there and then that there was no more turning back. My marriage was done and dusted, and there was really nothing I would have done to fix it this time around. All thanks to Jake for breaking up my marriage. My family had fallen apart and destroyed beyond repair because of the person I kissed like twice, but he decided to catch feelings. Some people have no sense of humor. As handsome as Jake was, I hated him for being the reason why my marriage was over. If he didn't call, none of that would have happened, but the stupid and unthinking man did. Since Marcus and I were not married under community property, I was left with nothing, and there was nothing to fight for if I were to fight. But he was gracious enough to leave me a house and a car since he had bought them under my name. One thing I would be grateful for was that he made a fair decision on making joint custody of our children. They were going to stay with me and visit him wherever he would be staying. I was grateful for the love, teachings, and everything he had given me. That man loved me. And if I were to take back everything, even the time, I would take back the moments I had shared with Marcus since we had started dating, from the day he started asking me till our last day together. Even today, I still regret the mistake I had made because it was the reason that had destroyed my marriage and my family. Now all I do is live for myself and my children. My surfing skills got even much better, and I had started checking for surfing competitions. It was time to let go and start afresh. Time to cry over a spilt milk was not going to work. So far, I would say life has been good to me. Even Jake had not called me, and I was very much grateful for that because I wanted nothing to do with him. I don't know if I made the right decision, though, to let my husband go just like that and how I dealt with the Jake situation. Please help me with advice. How do you think I should have dealt with the issue?
Hello, all the peeps of Reddit. I just needed an outlet to vent out my frustration about the things that I have recently witnessed in my life. These events have turned my life upside down, to tell the least. My name is Sean, and I am 40 years old. I have been married to a lovely woman, Veronica, for almost 2 decades now. She is 5 years older than I am, but that has never been an issue with us. We did have an issue in getting our families to accept our relationship and approve of it. It took them a while to come around and believe that our love was here to stay and last longer. We did have a few bumps at the beginning to adjust with each other due to our completely different morning routines. Eventually, we hit the right balance without causing each other any inconvenience. Now we have a strong and harmonious relationship built on understanding and compromise. Our families have also come to appreciate and support our bond, realizing that age is just a number when it comes to love. We have learned to embrace our differences and use them as strengths, creating a beautiful life together filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. Since she was older than me, she was much more established at work and earned more than I did. I would be lying if I say that it never bothered me even a bit. Though Veronica never brought it up ever in any conversation, I still deep down felt that it could be an issue someday. I couldn't help but wonder if our age difference would eventually affect our relationship dynamics. Despite my insecurities, I admired Veronica's success and tried to focus on my own growth and achievements. Veronica had always been an ambitious person. She was so engrossed in her job that she would sometimes forget about me. I knew that I should take inspiration and motivate myself to live up to her expectations. I would still feel at unease to take any financial decisions in our relationship, and she would be the one making collective decisions on our behalf. I was fine with it, as long as we were able to keep the peace in our relationship. We married pretty late in life, and I wanted us to have kids before we reached a stage where we couldn't. I had brought it up a couple of times in our discussions, which only led to loud screaming arguments between us. I got to tell you that it wasn't pretty. You would not want to mess with Veronica when she is angry or frustrated. She would never let you win the argument. Her fiery temper and unwavering determination made it clear that she was not going to back down easily. Despite the heated disagreements, I couldn't help but admire her strong-willed nature. It became evident that finding a compromise on this matter would require patience and understanding from both of us. After a lot of back and forth with each other, Veronica said that she was willing to start a family. I was relieved more than happy that I would not have to deal with Veronica and her anger anymore. When Veronica turned 35, we had our first babies. It was a set of twins. They were a handful right from the day they were born. Thank God we had our parents to rely on for taking care of the boys when we were both drained. Both our parents would take turns to help us with babysitting the boys so that we could focus on our jobs. Having their support made a huge difference in managing the demands of parenthood and maintaining our careers. We are forever grateful for their unwavering love and assistance during those challenging early years. Veronica and I had no time for each other during the first 2 years of our kids growing up. It was difficult to handle 2 kids and also work and have enough sleep. She took a maternity leave and was back at work to support the family. I did not earn enough to ask her to quit her job, and I had no say in the finances anymore. She was the one running the entire show all by herself. I did feel ignored at times when she would make decisions by herself. We did have a few arguments about it, but she said that she had no cure for my inferiority complex. I would much appreciate it if she would stay at home taking care of the kids. I knew that she had completely changed after having kids. She became vile in the way she spoke to me. It was as if she despised me for getting her to agree to having kids. I pushed through despite her rudeness because deep down I knew that she did not mean any of it. She was just sleep-deprived and tired and needed rest. Our parents took turns to stay with us and witnessed all the arguments we had. They would console each of us and always tell us that the first 2 years are always difficult. We would get by each other once the kids grew a little older. I wondered if that was ever possible. I could not take Veronica hating me anymore. I loved her, and I wanted her to acknowledge it. Just like how our parents predicted, as the boys grew older, we had less sleepless nights and a little free time at hand. Finally, the difficult times were coming to an end. I could see that Veronica had relaxed a bit and was getting back to her happier self. As our boys became more independent, Veronica and I were able to reconnect and spend quality time together. We started going on date nights again, laughing and enjoying each other's company like we used to. It was a relief to see our relationship flourishing once more after the challenging early years of parenthood. When the boys turned 6, we both agreed to let them stay with my parents for their school, and we could visit them over weekends. It was not much of a problem as the boys were used to staying with their grandparents. I was not so happy with this decision, but I knew that this was a necessary step to take so that we both could focus on our jobs for our kids' future. Veronica was due for a promotion, and she said that she did not want having kids around to ruin her chance of getting promoted. Though I would not have put it like that, it did hurt me that she felt like our kids were an obstacle in her career. I so wished that I could see my boys growing up, but at the same time, I knew that they would be under the guidance of my parents. We could always drive down whenever we wanted to see them. This was a way of keeping them safe. This is what we told ourselves after making this decision. Veronica had started focusing on her career again. She was engrossed in her job, fighting her way, and giving her best to get that promotion that she always wanted. All this led to her always being busy at work. She would come home drained and tired, eat, and go to bed. I wished that with the boys not around anymore, we could spend some quality time together, which could help us reduce the distance that had been created. I realized that it was not something that would be happening at least till she gets that promotion. I did not want to ruin her focus, so I started spending more and more time at my best friend, Joshua's place. He was divorced and had no intention of marrying again. He did have a lot of affairs going on and had one girlfriend in every part of town. He was a true ladies' man. Sometimes, I did envy his life. We had been friends since high school, and I wondered how our lives turned out to be completely different as we grew up. I was happy to have him as my support through all these years. He was my go-to man for any advice I needed since he knew me inside out. I would sometimes discuss my married life problems with him, and he would try to give me mature advice, and at times he would joke around and ask me to get a divorce, as it was the easiest solution to the problem. After 6 months of distancing myself from Veronica to give her space, she called me one day and broke the news about her promotion. It was time to celebrate. We decided to have a family get-together over the weekend to celebrate Veronica's success. I had invited Joshua to come along as he was the only one keeping me sane all this while. Veronica, Joshua, and I drove off to my parents' place for the gathering. Veronica looked stunning in the red dress, which I remember was the one she wore on our first date. It was awesome seeing her fit into her old clothes at her age, even after giving birth. I was mesmerized by the way she looked hot and really wanted us to have a special night today. As she walked towards me, I noticed that Joshua had been staring at her intently. I knocked his spoon and he said that I was a lucky man. I could tell that Joshua was messing with me. He always did that. We had a great conversation and spent a wonderful time with our parents and kids. We were supposed to spend the night with my parents as it was Sunday tomorrow. We all retired to our rooms to call it a night after midnight. I was eagerly waiting for Veronica to walk into our room so that I could pounce on her to have a steamy night of action. Finally, she came in and we kissed. God, I forgot what it felt like. We had a sensuous session of lovemaking, and it reminded me of the first time we were together. Veronica went to the bathroom and said that she would be getting some water for the night. I drifted off to sleep after all the driving that I had been doing since morning. I woke up after 30 minutes and could not find Veronica anywhere in the room. I was puzzled and thought to look for her in the kitchen. As I went downstairs, I heard someone talking. I went into the living area and saw that Veronica and Joshua had been talking to each other. They looked at me, and Veronica walked towards me laughing. I did not understand what was happening. Veronica told me that Joshua had been sharing stories from my school days with her, and she did not know that I was such a naughty kid. I did laugh with them, but I did feel a little uncomfortable at their closeness. I wanted to have some alone time with Veronica to curb the growing distance between us. Maybe it was a bad idea to have brought Joshua along. I told Joshua that it was getting late and he is the one who would be driving tomorrow, so he should go to bed. All of us went to our rooms, and it took me a long time to fall asleep. I could not let the image of Veronica laughing with Joshua out of my head. We bid goodbye to everyone the next morning and started our way back home. Everything was normal between Veronica and Joshua. I was cursing myself for being too judgmental about both of them. I was jumping to conclusions way too early. Maybe they were just catching up and Veronica was trying to get to know me better to help our relationship. Why was I not thinking straight? It could have been just that. The ride home was quiet and non-eventful. We dropped Joshua and went home. As soon as we reached home, Veronica started undressing herself and pulled me closer. We quickly started undressing each other and enjoyed every bit of our lovemaking session. I could tell that even Veronica had been craving for my body the same way I was hungry to get closer to her. Things had slowly started getting normal between us. We were spending our time together even in our hectic work schedules. It was as if we were back in our honeymoon phase of our marriage. We would come home and pounce on each other, trying out new things in the bedroom. I started realizing that it was not a bad decision to have the kids grow up away from us. We were mostly busy at work and hardly stayed at home. I did understand Veronica's point and even agreed that she was a good mother who did what was best for her kids, even if it meant making them stay away from her. We made sure that they were in the best school and had everything that they needed to excel at school. This also gave me and Veronica enough time to sort out our differences and give each other time. We tried to make sure that we go on dates, spend quality time together, and communicate regularly to maintain a strong relationship. Despite the physical distance, we made it a priority to be emotionally present for our children and provide them with love and support whenever they needed it. Additionally, we made efforts to create special memories as a family during holidays and vacations to strengthen our bond even further. Our kids are 9 years old now and still staying with my parents. I was slowly starting to earn a decent amount of money. I discussed with Veronica that maybe it was time for the boys to come home. They are big enough to be left at home, even if we were at work. She immediately was against the idea. I was shocked by her response, as I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting her to be jumping with joy when she heard this, but then again, what was I thinking? It was Veronica. She enjoyed her freedom and was a workaholic. Having the kids would mean that she would have to come home early and make herself available for them. This led to me being disappointed in her again. I wondered if she would ever want them to come back home. I did not want to fill myself with negative thoughts and decided that I should give her some time to think it over and process the idea of us living together as a family. I did not push this discussion further and let it rest. I mentioned this to Joshua about the reaction I got from Veronica, and he asked me to give her some time and she would definitely come around. I felt that it was the right thing to do. As days progressed, I never once brought up the idea of getting the boys home and living together as a family. I did not want to ruin the peace and quiet that I and Veronica had finally achieved after a lot of struggle. However, deep down, I couldn't ignore the longing for a complete family unit. The thought of having the boys back home tugged at my heartstrings, reminding me of the love and joy they brought into our lives. I was thinking of getting the boys home after our 20th anniversary and wanted to beg Veronica to let them stay with us. I knew it wouldn't be easy, as Veronica had made it clear in the past that she preferred our peaceful life without the boys. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that it was time to reunite and create a stronger bond as a family. Perhaps by discussing my feelings openly with Veronica, we could find a way to compromise and make our home a loving and welcoming space for all of us. Our 20th anniversary was approaching soon. I thought that this was the right opportunity for me to close the distance between me and Veronica. I was preparing for our 20-year anniversary as a surprise for my wife. I wanted it to be much more memorable till the next decade. I was supercharged and wanted to give it my all. I hired a professional event organizer to make sure that everything would be perfect, with no errors. I was very keen to participate in all the decisions from shortlisting, the venue, decoration, guest list, and the entertainment. I had taken help from both our parents to make a collage of our childhood pictures, along with our pictures with the boys to depict our 20 years journey together. I also arranged for a live band to play our favorite songs throughout the night, ensuring a romantic and nostalgic atmosphere. Additionally, I reached out to close friends and family members to prepare heartfelt speeches and toasts, making the evening even more special with their heartfelt words. I also planned to buy a few gifts for Veronica to pamper her on our wedding anniversary. I was taking advice from Joshua about the perfume that I should be using for our special night together. I made him come along with me, and as we were testing samples, there was one perfume that I really liked the smell of. I asked Joshua for a second opinion, and he grabbed a perfume and said that this is what Veronica is using nowadays. Well, that was awkward. How could Joshua probably know the kind of perfume Veronica had been using lately, unless he was super close to smelling it on her? Joshua had always been popular among the ladies, so I just thought that he was bragging about how well he knew women. I just left it at that, as I did not want it to get on my nerves. I already had a lot to prepare and could not have my mind wander around on unnecessary things. I decided to go with my instincts for the other gifts that I wanted to buy for Veronica. I wanted them to be of my choice. I believed that if I was Veronica's choice, then she would love what I got her. I know that didn't make sense, but it made me feel better about myself. In the end, I realized that the most important thing was to show Veronica how much I cared for her. So, I carefully selected gifts that reflected her interests and personality, hoping they would bring a smile to her face. Trusting my instincts allowed me to find unique and meaningful presents that truly captured our connection. It was 2 weeks for our anniversary, and I was acting too cool about it, not letting Veronica know what I had been planning. I was on my phone constantly with the event manager, making sure that everything was going as planned. Veronica did question me about who it was. I had cold feet and lied that it was one of my friend's girlfriends who needed help, though she didn't buy it but didn't question it any further. I knew that I had to be careful if I didn't want Veronica to catch wind of what I had been planning. I made sure to keep my excitement in check whenever we talked about our upcoming anniversary, trying my best to act nonchalant. As the day approached, I became even more vigilant, making sure not to slip up and reveal any details that could give away the surprise. I thought the best approach would be to stay as busy as I could and not be caught off guard by Veronica. I started telling her that things have been hectic at work, and I would have to put in extra hours to be on top of things. I tried to take Joshua's help with trying to cover for me. Veronica would call Joshua to ask him about my whereabouts, and I asked him to lie that I had been busy with work. Things were going as planned, and I had all of the gifts ready and in place, just like I had imagined. I booked a hotel suite to celebrate by ourselves after the celebrations with friends and family. I chose the music and the lingerie along with the perfume and other props that could help increase the fun much more. We were 1 week away from our anniversary. As all the preparations were almost ready, I decided to go home early. I did not want Veronica to disregard my request to meet me at the venue when the day arrived. I knew she was pissed for a while now, and I did not want to aggravate her even more by completely avoiding her till the end. I reached home and was about to open the garage door when I saw a familiar car parked near the sidewalk. It was Joshua's car with its engine running. I thought maybe he had come to meet me, which was strange as he did not call or text me beforehand. I was about to give him a shout when I saw Veronica walk out of the door towards Joshua. I was expecting her to let him know that I was not at home and get inside. To my surprise, she got into the car and they rode off. I had no choice, and without thinking, I followed them. I was getting restless, unable to make sense of what was happening. I was still positive that it was nothing serious. Maybe Veronica was also planning something in secret and was taking Joshua's help to make it happen. Yes, that was a reasonable explanation. They drove to a motel and parked outside. They got out and went into the motel. I quietly followed them and was hoping and praying that this was not what I was thinking. They took the keys to a room and left. I followed them to the room. I was waiting in the hallway trying to process the events unfolding in front of my eyes. I was unsure whether I should knock on the door and confront them or leave. I was not ready for what I would witness. My heartbeat had drastically increased. I was unable to think straight. After about 15 minutes of hyperventilating and running all kinds of scenarios in my head, I decided to see for myself. I knocked and waited for them to open up. After about 5 minutes, Joshua opened the door and the color left his face when he saw me at the door. I knew that expression. It was the one you have when you get caught in the act. I pushed him away and walked into the room. There lay Veronica on the bed, naked in all her glory. She looked at me and covered herself. Seriously, I have seen that body naked all my life. What was she hiding, really? She was my wife, and she was covering herself from me. My heart sank, and I was left speechless. I thought that I was getting a heart attack, but it was just pain in my heart from the betrayal. I did not know who to talk to first. My best friend, who I just found naked in bed with my wife, or my wife for whom I have been going all lengths to plan a splendid surprise. I finally decided to address both at the same time. I looked at them both and said, how could they do this to me? Joshua was sorry, at least that is what he said. He didn't mean to go through with it, but Veronica kept pushing him to the corner by throwing herself at him. I knew that Joshua always had a weakness for women. I recollected all the times he was looking lustfully at Veronica. It might not have been just her who was at fault. They both were equally responsible for this betrayal. I looked at Veronica, expecting her to give an explanation for her behavior. To my surprise, instead of feeling apologetic and guilty about it, she lashed back at me. She told me that she would not have gone so far if I had not cheated on her first. I was speechless after listening to this. When and how did she come to this conclusion that I had cheated on her? I didn't know if she was serious or it was her defense to get out of this situation. She told me that she knew that I had been cheating on her for quite some time now. She told me that she knew that I was not working extra hours and I was not helping any of my friends' girlfriends, but actually having an affair. I did not if I had to laugh at it or feel shocked at these baseless allegations. I told her that I was planning a surprise for our anniversary and did not want her to know about it. I told her that Joshua was already aware of this and I had no intention of cheating on her as I loved her through all my heart. She looked at Joshua in shock and amazement at this revelation. I was waiting for Joshua to confirm what he knew. Joshua agreed that he knew about my surprise party. But at the same time, he could not disregard the physical tension between Veronica and him. There had been instances where they almost went all the way, but due to my relationship with them, they tried to hold themselves back. He unveiled a few incidents that I was unaware of. Veronica kept asking him to stop talking nonsense and that there was no need for all of this. I understood that there was more to this encounter, and this was not the first time something like this had conspired between Veronica and Joshua. My mind immediately went to the day when we celebrated Veronica's promotion. They both were hitting it off quite well even that day after everyone was asleep. I had blind trust in both of these people, and they led me down and how. She cheated on me with my best friend. I was not only losing the love of my life, but also my closest friend. I had no words and my mind went blank. I knew that I had to get to the bottom of this as it could not have been a chance encounter. I asked Veronica to let Joshua talk and she can put her points across later. I did not want to deal with her right now. I knew that Joshua had nothing to lose even if he told me everything truthfully. For now, I was willing to trust Joshua and asked him to let me know how it all started. Joshua said that he would tell me everything that had happened as he did not want to lie to me anymore. I scoffed. After ruining everything that I cared about, he was telling me that he did not want to lie? Was this guy really serious right now? He started with the day we were celebrating Veronica's promotion. When they accidentally bumped into each other, there was this weird sexual tension between them. They started talking and could feel their eyes lingering on each other's body. They kissed each other, and when they heard someone coming, they distanced themselves. After that day, they tried to constantly avoid each other. They had been successful for a few years after that. They managed to let it go as a weak moment and never thought about it. This came as breaking news to me. No wonder I felt uncomfortable with their closeness that day. I then realized that Veronica showering me with all her love after we got back was only because she felt guilty about the kiss that they shared. It was not because she missed me or our relationship. It was all making sense now. Last year, when we met for my birthday again at home, fireworks exploded between them. They tried their best to ignore the tension and act like nothing had happened, but the chemistry between them was undeniable. It was as if all those suppressed feelings had resurfaced, stronger than ever. I collapsed on the floor as I couldn't stand anymore. I felt weak in my knees listening to all of this and wondered how blind I had been to not notice any of this happening right under my nose. They denied their feelings as they both knew that what they were feeling for each other was very wrong. They knew that their relationship could end up in them losing me in the process. Once again, they suppressed their feelings and moved on with their respective lives. Things changed when 2 weeks ago, Veronica called Joshua to ask him about my whereabouts. He told her that I was at work just like I had requested him. Veronica asked him to meet her as she wanted to discuss something important about me. They met at the burger joint where she told Joshua that she suspects me of having an affair. Joshua laughed about it and said that it was not possible. She said that she could see all the red flags right in front of her eyes. I was coming home late, always on the phone, avoiding her even on weekends. She knew that something fishy was going on. He assured her that she was just being paranoid and that there was nothing going on with me. While they were leaving, she hugged him to thank him for listening to her and making her feel a bit relaxed about the situation. This brought back old memories, and they couldn't resist and kissed each other. Joshua realized what was happening and tried to pull away, but Veronica deepened the kiss. After a lot of restraint, he gave in and kissed her back. He asked her to leave and not to meet him alone again. 2 days after that, Veronica called Joshua again and started crying over the phone. She asked him to come home as she found proof of me cheating on her. He came home and she showed him the gifts that I had been collecting for our anniversary. There was a ring among all the other things that I had bought for her. She said that this was solid proof of me cheating on her. Joshua tried to console her, but she kept on weeping and said things like she had always tried to be loyal and this is what she got in return. She started kissing him, and before they realized, they were in our bed naked, making love to each other. Veronica told him that it was the best sex she had had in years. Joshua could not help but feel so great about him. He knew that he was attracted to her. He even had dreams of making love to her. At the back of his head, he knew that what they were doing was morally wrong, but he couldn't stop himself. This was the first time that they had crossed the line, but it was not going to be the last. After that day, they had been meeting each other quite frequently, always on the phone, sexting each other about what they would do when they met. Me being oblivious of all this was getting ready for our grand anniversary running from pillar to post to make it the most memorable day of Veronica's life. Here she was, having the greatest sex of her life with my best friend. Joshua told me that he was willing to stop after today. He felt bad that they had been doing this behind my back, and he valued my friendship enough that he did not want to ruin it. I did not know what to say after the entire truth was disclosed. I was not even sure if this was the entire truth. They might be things that both of them were still hiding from me so that I don't die of a heart attack right away. I couldn't shake the feeling that this affair could be one of the reasons why Veronica did not want the boys to come home and start living with us. Obviously, with no one around, it would be much easier for Joshua to come in and out of the house. I can't imagine how long this would go on if I hadn't decided to come home early today and catch them red-handed. I am sure they would have continued their secret affair as long as they could, till someday I would catch up to it. I looked at Veronica, who had been weeping all this while. She came to me and sat beside me. She said that she was sure that I had been cheating on her. She was too upset about it, and that was the only reason she went this far. I could not come to terms with her stupid explanation that she cheated on me because she thought I had been cheating on her. I felt a mix of anger and confusion as I tried to comprehend Veronica's reasoning. It seemed irrational to me that she would resort to infidelity instead of having an open conversation about her concerns. I mean, it was all sounding ridiculous and getting more and more laughable as they disclosed why they had done what they did. I left the motel room and started walking outside. I had no idea where I would go and what I should do. I have no idea what I should do and how I should react to this. It has been 2 days, and I still can't wrap my head around what I witnessed. There is no sign of Veronica for the past 2 days. She did try to call me and ask for forgiveness, but I am not in the right frame of mind to talk to her. I have no idea if there is something that I would even want to talk to her about. What should I tell her if I ever run into her? How would I tell my kids what is wrong between us? I mean, they are going to be 10 soon, and if they know that their mother had been cheating, I am scared that it would have an impact on their mental health. I could not believe that Veronica would take such a step, and what was absurd was that Joshua was aware of what I had been planning for our anniversary. Not once did he try to let her know that she was completely mistaken about me and that I was planning something for her. This would have saved both our friendship and my marriage. I understood that he had no intention of saving anything and was only thinking about himself. I'm not sure if I would be able to trust anyone ever in my life. I trusted Joshua, who was my brother, throughout my life. Veronica, the mother of my kids, was someone I would take a bullet for. So I am here asking you guys on Reddit to help me with advice on what I should do going forward. How should I go about it? Any advice, however weird it is, will be appreciated. I am sure the advice could not get as weird as the situation I am in. Looking forward to anyone who is in a similar situation to share their story so that I can get some perspective on how to go about handling and dealing with this situation.